Now hit the open.
Now from Atlanta News First Plus, this is Sports Tonight.
Welcome to Sports Tonight on this Thursday. I'm sports producer Scott Pennyman. Bailey Burmaster, the sports director, is in the house. Bailey, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good. It's Thursday. We're in the thick of a lot going on. It's supposed to be the quiet season, but it is not the quiet season in the least. Lots of football news circulating throughout right now.
It has not been the quiet season, right? Especially here in Atlanta, where this is one of the, 8 job openings in the NFL? Mm-hmm. Let's get started. Big Bill is going to be talked to again. The Atlanta Falcons brass, Arthur Blank, Terry Fontenot, and Rich McKay, they're going to sit down one more time with Bill Belichick this weekend to discuss the head coaching job. And I don't know about you, but it's sort of seeming like to me like this is headed in one direction, right down the 6-time Super Bowl winner's path, right?
Yeah, kind of how I see it. So if you remember, there were a lot of rumors circulating the last couple of weeks of season that the Falcons would have interest in Bill Belichick. Yeah. Bill and Rich McKay have some prior history of knowing each other and whatnot, and interest of working together, essentially. There were all those rumors that Arthur Blank was on a yacht and Bill Belichick showed up and they had some talks, and, you know, they've interviewed 7 or so people and requested to interview more. But the reality is Bill is the first of the 7 on the list to get that second interview, which is very telling. There were reports, I believe, too, that first interview lasted an hour and 45 minutes, maybe 2 hours. And now, like you mentioned, he will talk to McKay and Fontenot and everyone. And I have a feeling this is going to be more of a get everyone on board and feel the vibe of what the future is.
Yeah, I talked before about, just kind of question whether this was the right fit for the right situation here with Bill Belichick, being 71 years old and maybe this being a pretty young team right now and probably not ready to win yet as far as get over the top. I thought Belichick would go to one of those teams that wanted to get over the top, right? I mean, maybe like a Dallas Cowboys. They had a breakdown last weekend. So I kind of thought about maybe like that situation or even more situations like that were maybe a little more ready, like the Chargers or something. But look.
You really think the Chargers are in a better position than the Falcons?
That's going to be my next topic.
Okay. Okay.
Next topic. But, yeah, I just look at the Falcons right now. I just think with the quarterback being the question, obviously I'm sure Bill, and probably in that hour and 45 meeting with Arthur Blank, or certainly in the meeting this weekend, will probably discuss how to move forward with that quarterback position. So I'm sure they have a plan there, but it's just – I guess it fits his criteria, right? He talked about how he wanted a team that was maybe underachieving, but still were talented. So I guess from that standpoint, the Atlanta Falcons definitely fit that bill, especially if you watch the team in 2023. So, yeah, I don't know. It just sort of seems like, I just wonder, when Gerard Mayo was in his press conference yesterday with the Patriots and he, took that job over in New England, he discussed a lot about being able to connect with the younger players and how it's so much different from even when he played. And Gerard Mayo's not even that old. It really wasn't that long ago when he was playing. He talked about how it's so much different now just because now you have to have someone that can really relate to the players from a standpoint of these guys aren't really just all about football. Like, you have to be able to relate to them on a personal level first to get the sort of nudge them to do what you need them to do. And I thought Bill Belichick the last couple of years in New England, had some problems with that. So I just don't know if this is the right situation for him because I don't know that this team necessarily has that business mentality yet.
I hear you, and I do think that camaraderie with players and relationship is important. Yeah. I also think, though, as the head coach, I'm not saying it's not your responsibility, but the reality is the head coach going to be with every position group every moment of every day? No, it's going to be your coordinators. It's going to be your personnel coaches. So I think that's where I put more weight on that, so to speak. Yeah. I think at the end of the day, and I usually love to pay attention to a team's culture and their camaraderie and how much they bond and how they talk about their coaches. But I also think the reality, too, is you need to win, and you need a proven winner. And I do think Bill Belichick, despite how things have turned out, because of what I believe is strict quarterback at the quarterback position, yes. He's a winner. And I do think there is a no-nonsense aspect of being in the NFL, which you're either about it or you're not. There's a lot of people who get there and say, okay, well, I'm good enough to sustain and make that paycheck, so let me just get comfortable with this. And at the end of the day, like, the paycheck's going to hit the same whether we're winning or losing. And I do think there are people who would rather just be winning. So I do think that edge of what Bill Belichick brings is really important, and I think it's what's enticing to Arthur Blank. Yeah. But I do also hear you, because I don't want to downplay the disconnect there either. Yeah. But I also think that's what's important with position group coaches and who else comes in. But the reality is I think it's less about connecting with players. I think it's less about who they hire for head coach, and it is everything about who they get at quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, look, I definitely hear that part. I guess a lot will have to do with who he brings onto his staff, right? Mm-hmm. And like you said, I mean, most players throughout the course of the NFL day are with their assistants, they're with their coordinators and everything like that. So, yeah, I think it's cool for Bill Belichick to be your head coach if he doesn't bring along like a lot of the same assistants he's had over the years, like Bill O'Brien and those guys. I don't like that fit for where the Falcons are at right now. Mm-hmm. I think if Bill Belichick, much like, let's say, like Andy Reid in Kansas City, is able to innovate a little bit and just sort of catch up to where things are at right now in football, get some younger, more progressive coaches around him to be able to bring this staff up to where they need to be, yeah, I think then it could work, because he's a leader who's respected. Obviously, he's won 6 Super Bowls, and I think that's when he can allow that to take over. But if he brings a lot of the same guys he had with him in New England, and some of those guys who were just, I thought, a little bit out of touch, maybe sort of behind the times a little bit, then I think it's going to be a hard sell. I think it's going to be one of those situations where maybe it doesn't work after a couple years. But who am I to doubt the great Bill Belichick, right?
Yes.
All right, so I said we get to this one a second ago.
Yeah,
so,
I'm itching to talk about this now after what you said.
So there's currently 8 openings, if I'm not mistaken, open right now in the National Football League, head coaching openings. Nobody's really jumped yet, right? It almost seems, I don't know if it's kind of a holding pattern here.
No, I feel like the first real jump was Dallas keeping Mike McCarthy.
Right.
And I think the Eagles are trending towards keeping Nick Sirianni. There's a bunch of reports that he's meeting with the GM about a plan moving forward and interviewing coordinators. Don't think they were happy with how things ended there with offensively for Philly, so they're looking at options, which means they're probably going to keep him and give him one more year, but it's a short leash for both of those coaches.
That's crazy, too.
Chargers head coaching job is open. Titans head coaching job is open. It's funny because what I think is going to happen, and I think you'll agree with this, once Bill Belichick has found a home, everything else will start falling like dominoes.
The dominoes will fall.
Because once he's gone and he's out of the market, everyone's going to be trying to jump for the next second coming of whoever can be a good coach.
I don't know why, because I'm thinking about the openings that are out there, right? And in my opinion, the best, and you just mentioned them a second ago, in my opinion, the best head coach opening right now is I'm gonna say San Diego, the Los Angeles Chargers. And just when you look at what they've been the last couple of years, I believe they've been a team who should have been competing for the last couple of years. They should have been competing for at least going deep in the playoffs. I believe the reason that they weren't was because their head coach just wasn't ready. He wasn't capable. He wasn't. He was in charge of a. We always talk about giving the keys to the Ferrari and all that stuff. Yeah, he wasn't ready to be given the keys to any automobile. So I think we look at that Chargers team. Number one, they have the quarterback. Justin Herbert's a guy. I
think he's a good quarterback. Yeah, I do.
He's a good quarterback, and I think that's the best quarterback situation of any team that's hiring a head coach right now. So I would think that would be the number one opening that would be attractive to Belichick or Harbaugh. It's warm, sunny Southern California. Seems to me like that's – and just talent around the quarterback as well. I mean, they have good receivers. They have pretty good defense built up there. Mm-hmm. I think with the right coach, that team will be ready to compete next season. I don't think the Falcons are really seriously competing next season. Well, I guess when you look at their division, it's not a great division. They can compete.
So here's my thing. Yeah. And hear me out here and pay attention to the words I use. Mm-hmm. You could make an argument that Atlanta is set very similar to the Chargers. They are legitimately just a quarterback away. look at what C.J. Stroud has done with the Texans. You can't tell me the Atlanta offense, scheme aside from what Arthur Smith had implemented, that they have some phenomenal pieces offensively. Defensively, they turned things around wildly under Ryan Nielsen and Jerry Gray. And that should continue to improve. Add in the fact the division is, you could make a deep playoff run too.
I'm okay.
It may not be pretty.
Yeah.
And it may not be the level you see play, whether that's the Chiefs or 49ers or whoever else you want to throw in that mix. But they do have a chance, and you could make the argument, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, but at the very top of your argument is the piece that I would take the most issue with is the quarterback position, right? I mean, it's really hard to find one of those, So I would just love to know what their plan is to find a quarterback for this team, even if Bill Belichick comes in, because look, when he had Tom Brady, obviously he was able to put his mind to work, focus on the defensive side of the ball, and they had one of the greatest runs in the history of pro sports.
Scott, what would you do if news broke that the Falcons bagged Bill Belichick and Tom Brady's coming out of retirement to play for the Falcons? What would you do?
That would be crazy. I mean, you know what? What's funny is I thought about that last night too. I was thinking about, like, what if Tom has one more season left in him, and he comes to Atlanta for the Falcons? Talk about that's gonna make all of our lives crazy, right? If something like that was to happen. But yeah, I think that's the number one thing, right? I think that the quarterback position is the number one hurdle, and it's hard to find one. Like, we talk about it, right? We talk about it here all the time. Like, when I've talked about different quarterbacks and why can't they find a job and things like that, because it's so hard to find one. That's why mediocre guys get big contracts like Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr, because it is hard to solve that position.
Yep.
So I would just love to know what their plan is moving forward, because we've seen Belichick, if their plan is to take a young quarterback, right? If their plan is to draft one, maybe at 8 or even sort of move up in that first round. We saw Bill Belichick with a young first-round pick at quarterback and Matt Jones start off pretty good, but then he went deep into the sewer.
Did you ever think Mac Jones was really going to be the answer there?
I tell you what, that first season, I thought he was going to be a really capable quarterback.
Scott,
I didn't think
you're
he was
smarter
a great
than
quarterback.
this.
No. After his first season in New England, remember, they made the playoffs that first year when Josh McDaniel was his offensive coordinator, and Mac Jones looked like a capable NFL quarterback in that first season. I didn't think he was a great quarterback, but I thought he was the kind of quarterback that you can win with. I thought he was going to be that kind of quarterback. And then he just went to the tank the last couple of years. I mean, he looked terrible the last few years.
Well, and it's not going to be Caleb Williams. The latest reports are suggesting that if you didn't, last week we talked about it, he entered the draft officially. There was a lot of speculation. He wasn't going to do it if he didn't get confirmation that the Bears were going to get rid of their first-round draft because he didn't want to play in Chicago, whatever. Well, now there's reports that Cliff Kingsbury is interviewing for the offensive coordinator position with the Bears. If that is the case, then that means that Caleb is probably going to go to the Bears with Cliff Kingsbury running the offense. And Ellie is...
Yeah, that's what I was laughing at.
She ain't happy about it.
As I saw Ellie over there slamming her head into the desk, just sort of...
No, with an exclamation point in all caps. Doesn't want Cliff Kingsbury and don't want Caleb Williams either? No. Okay.
Well, I think Caleb Williams is going to be headed there. We see those pieces there. We see everything. And they kept the coach there, too. They kept it, Matt Eberflus. So I think if you're keeping him, you're probably not keeping Justin Fields.
I don't think he's a good coach.
Okay. All right. Well,
and then, you know what? That was harsh. Let me take it back.
Wow.
I think the Bears are struggling as an organization. Sorry, Ellie. I mean, that was so much love in my heart.
The Bears have been on the struggle bus since Lovie Smith left. So,
man, it's been a tough scene for them.
They've been riding the struggle bus for a long time. So let's jump to the NFL playoffs right now, where there's these teams aren't on the struggle bus, right? So in NFL divisional round here coming up, who do you like in this divisional round? I mean, not necessarily every game, but who's kind of caught your eye?
So I actually do want to go through all these games real quick, just in my opinion.
Oh, go.
I am obsessed and cannot wait to watch this Texans-Ravens game at 4:30 on Saturday.
Really?
What the Texans have been able to do in a season with C.J. Stroud is remarkable. And I think the Ravens are and I have thought this for a while, are one of the best teams in the league, and
For
Lamar
sure.
Jackson has been popping off. That offense is just rolling. On top of that, they get Mark Andrews back. I just cannot wait to watch that game.
I think they're gonna blow the Texans out.
You think so?
Yeah.
I could see it.
Yeah.
How about the Green Bay Packers, man?
Oh wow.
Stunting
That's
on
a
the
surprise
Cowboys. Now they play the 49ers. If you don't know the history between these two teams, the 49ers have owned the Packers in the
Yeah.
playoffs the last couple of years. So that will be a fun one just to see how Jordan Love rises to the occasion against a really good 49ers team. Then you have Bucks Lions, which
That's the whole reason I brought this topic up.
can we talk about a gritty game that is going to be? I mean, come on.
Look at look at my guy. I mean, well, I'm not gonna call him my guy, right? But Baker Mayfield, he torched the Eagles.
He did.
Torch
He
the
did.
Eagles.
I am hard on him because I've covered him.
Yeah.
And I still think he's just an average quarterback, but in a great system and under the right circumstances, has shown that he can drive a team.
Now you do know the Buccaneers was picked by many people to finish last this past
Yes.
year, right?
Yes. But also, once again, the division is one of the weakest, if not the weakest.
That's true. But just think about it for a second here. Like when you look at the New Orleans Saints, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think coming into this season, most people would have said, probably for his career, that Derek Carr is a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield, right? Or at
Mm-hmm.
least in that same category. And Derek Carr was in the division with the Saints, and he didn't win it. You know, Baker Mayfield did.
No, there's an age gap there, too. And I would actually, maybe that's what we do another one, is look at the numbers.
You think Carr's
career.
washed? He's an old Carr?
I'm shaking my head, and I'm not going to tell you which way. If you're listening to this on podcast form, you may not know. But I am excited for this Lions Bucks game. It's just like one of those gritty, good football games. Like,
Yes.
you know it's going to be fun. At least I hope so. I don't think it's going to be a blowout either way.
Doesn't seem
but,
like it.
But, I mean, yeah, Baker torched the Eagles. They should be embarrassed. But they were also struggling there the last so many games
They have
that
been.
they just fell apart. The wheels fell off.
And it's hard not to feel good for both of those quarterbacks, right? When you think
Yeah.
about where Jared Goff was cast off by the Rams, pushed aside. They bring in Matthew Stafford, win a Super Bowl, and he beats Matthew Stafford last week in that game. So it's hard not to feel good for Jared Goff, and it's hard not to feel good for Baker Mayfield. When you look at what he has been through the last couple seasons, what happened to him in Cleveland, we all know. Goes to Carolina last year, so flops out there to the point where they were using him as like a defensive player in some of those practices, right? When he was rushing, it was kind of crazy. Goes to the Rams and gets with Sean McVay, and I think that's where things sort of turned around for him from a knowledge standpoint, and then gets his opportunity with Tampa, and look, he's taking full advantage of it.
Correct. And I think before I said I don't see him doing a long-term deal, that was we were still in the regular season at that
I think
point.
he's getting one now.
I will say he's getting a bigger deal than I originally thought.
Yeah, I mean, what's
Now-
Tampa going to do? Like, you're going to just cast him off now?
No,
It's
but
hard
you're
to
not
find
giving. I
quarterbacks.
would be baffled if it's more than a 4-year deal. I
Oh,
think
yeah,
it's a
I'll-
2-3-year deal, not crazy money, but good money.
Yeah. I
With
think
a
it'll
lot
be-
of incentives.
I think it'll be very similar to the contract that Kirk Cousins got in Minnesota a couple years back when it was like 3 years, almost fully guaranteed, like $84 million. It was like 30-something million per year. I think that's the range for Baker.
I see him staying in Tampa, though. Why wouldn't you at this
Yeah.
point?
It-
You feel comfortable. You're playing
sure.
well. Obviously, him and Todd Bowles mesh well. So why fix what's broken instead of seeing what else? And I thought Bowles had a really good statement in one of his press conferences concerning Baker. And he basically just said, it was funny. It was kind of like a Ferrari analogy we talk about. He goes, we didn't come in here expecting him to change the organization.
Right.
We just said we need you to sustain the driving speed of the car.
Yes.
And he's done that, and I think that's allowed him to play a lot more loose.
Yeah, he's played well. Hey, let's get on to some Hawks too, right?
Let's do it.
Tomorrow, Hawks back on WANF, right?
Yes, they are. They'll be on Atlanta News First, Peachtree TV, and Peachtree Sports Network in Miami, taking on the Heat.
That was a big win last night. Last second buzzer beater against the Orlando Magic, of course. You were there, right? So that was really cool to see the environment there and everything like that. So after the game, Quinn Snyder was talking a lot about, just kind of where they're at right now and that kind of win and probably looking forward to things tomorrow in Miami. Check it out here. Let's get to him.
Well, I'm not guys off the hook, but when Clint gets switched out onto Blancaro, and I thought we really made him work. Our back line in the glass isn't 6'9", 6'11", 6'8", whatever it was. They're big, and and they cut because he's in an isolation situation in the back down, and I thought O did a great job guarding him. All our guys who was on him, JJ had a couple contests that were really good. Thought we did a good job of defending him. And those shots, they know he's shooting them, and they crash. And it's something we gotta stay committed to. But as much as anything, it's the process of getting those hits, because that's if we can't really jump with them. And even when someone's got a running start, it's hard. But that's where we competed and got more familiar with the way that they were going to the glass as the game went on. And I thought our guards rebounded. We have to rebound. We have to gang rebound.
Obviously, it works out with DeJounte's shot. What was the thought process after Paolo's three to not call a timeout and just let it play out?
Yeah, that's always the debate. So you call timeout and the defense gets set. They substitute. And DJ awarded that confidence, and happy for him. It was contested. That's a shot he can make. And he did. It was more significant to me even prior to that, the last 5 minutes, with those two guys playing pick and roll, and Trey pick and roll, playing pick and roll with JJ. I thought we were able to manufacture some good shots. And, Trey puts so much pressure on you when he drives, and he got to the line, and he got fouled.
How much can you guys talk about just giving up the ball to each other, making the right reads, making the right passes?
Yeah, I think we did a great job. Start the game tonight like we did last game. And fed throughout the whole game. Shots weren't necessarily going in the whole game like we usually are used to. But, we were moving it, and guys were getting good looks. And we'll take the looks that we got tonight for sure going forward.
Feels like every time you guys play the Magic, these are some pretty close games. What do you think it is about them as an opponent that kind of leads to these type of performances?
I think we're kind of like, literally kind of like the exact opposite type of teams. Like they're a very, very good defensive team and kind of sometimes struggle on offense, and we're kind of the opposite. Like we're a very, very good offensive team that kind of struggles on defense sometimes. So I think that's why you kind of get these kind of games and battles where they're close, because it's like a teeter-totter. We kind of even each other out sometimes, and it's just whichever one is going to give more that game and that night. So
Trey, on that last play, what was going through your head as Quinn decides not to call a timeout and then DJ's able to sink that buzzer beater?
Well, when the ball went in, the first thing I think about is if we have a timeout or not, and if we're going to go. And so I looked up real quick, saw we had a timeout, and saw that they were pressuring, and thought we were just going to call a timeout. And Quinn actually was telling the ref timeout, and he didn't hear him. And the refs weren't hearing a lot of people all game, so it worked in our favor there. And he didn't hear him, and we got the ball to DJ, and DJ did his thing. So that's why I was kind of jumping. I'm like looking at the ref, thinking he's literally telling you timeout. Oh, okay, we got DJ the ball, so now we good. So got him the ball, let him do his thing, and we're tied. So I think the best thing was just to get in transition and make a play. And Quinn did a great job of not calling a timeout, and we all just spaced for DJ and let him do his thing.
When you guys are in that situation, it's tied at 104, and coach is trying to signal for a timeout, but none comes. Where does your mind go to try and get the play going and get back?
He didn't signal for a timeout once Paulo hit the three. That's why JJ, I think I took it out, or one of us took it out. I can't even remember. We took it out. He didn't call the timeout. I think JJ was trying to get the ball to Trey, obviously, and Trey was denied. So, I got the ball, and it was going to win the game.
Can you just talk us through just your right when you saw the shot, go in? What was just the initial feeling?
I mean, it's a make or miss league. You're going to make or miss shots. But, with me, I always feel like I'm going to make the next shot if I miss a shot. So, it just come from just working hard and just being, extremely confident in myself. Even my teammates. If my teammate took the shot, I believe it's going in. So, I didn't shoot it with the intentions of, I'm going to miss this shot. It was like, let's go home. And, I made the shot.
DeJounte, as you were coming up the court, did you have any move in mind? Were you trying to get all the way to the rim? Did you know you were going to pull up? Can you kind of take us through, as soon as you got the ball in bounds, kind of what your plan was?
I mean, I'm a react type of guy, so trying to really take what the defense gives me. Obviously, trying to get all the way, knowing we're in the bonus, but, knowing that the mid-range is my sweet spot. So, I took the shot, rose up over him, and made a great shot.
What do moments like that do, not only for your confidence, but this team's confidence when those games are so close late on?
I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like you want, great basketball games, competing at a high level from, I feel like, a fan standpoint. And obviously players, you don't want to be in games where it's just blowouts. We're here in the NBA to compete, at the highest level, this is the highest level. So, at the end of the day, hopefully it just brings confidence. But we still want to win games better than that. You don't want to take games to the last second shot. We got a lot of things we got to work on, which one is taking care of the ball and starting with myself on down. And, like I said, at the end of the day, we want to be in better games than that.
Coach talked about how unselfish you all were. You all shot over 50% from the field, and you were just talking about overcoming turnovers and everything like that, especially in a close game. How important is that unselfishness?
I mean, that's what builds great teams. When you believe in the guy next to you, and you, most importantly, you want the guy to succeed next to you. I feel like those are just great habits to build when you're trying to build something, build a culture, or just build, winning habits. So that's just the most important. And me as an individual, that's just something I love to do. If my teammate's open, I want to get you the ball. And if I don't get you the ball, you can hold me accountable. And I tell all of them guys, you can get on me. You got that green light to, tell me that you was open and next time get you the ball. That's simple.
DeJounte, there was a play with a couple minutes left where you had 2 of, I think, 6 offensive rebounds that you got. What's sort of the emotional swing there when you just keep pounding the offensive glass and eventually it breaks through?
I think it's important. Usually we're on the other end of that where other teams is, getting a lot of offensive rebounds. And, it just shows that we wanted the ball. Wesley Matthews, our vet, he said something that looked like a bunch of guys that wanted the ball, wanted to win the game. So, I think it's just important.
All right, Bailey, real quick, what's on your mind?
I guess I'm going to go with Atlanta United. They announced that they added a center midfielder, Bartosz Lich, on top of Stian Gregerson. So getting some pieces. Their roster's pretty much all done for preseason, which is crazy. Usually it's not the case. So I'm hoping they can kind of redeem themselves back to greatness. They haven't been bad by any means, but high bar when you win like that.
Well, it was on my mind real quick. I was just, as we were doing this, I was looking at I made it like a social media post this week where, because I love to torment people throughout the week in social media. I would say more than torment, just sort of bring up really fun topics. So, of course, the first thing I did when the Buccaneers won was, I have a lot of friends back in Cleveland. I posted Baker Mayfield. Congratulations to him and everything like that.
You made some people mad, didn't
That's
you?
such an inflammatory topic back there. It's crazy.
It's split. Like, there's people who are like, thank you for what you've done. And there's people who are like, we hate you and never want to acknowledge you were even a Browns quarterback.
And there's no middle ground. It's normally
There's
either you're on one side or the other.
And you know what's crazy?
It's crazy.
I get both.
Yeah.
I understand both sides of that.
I totally understood.
Being there when times went terrible and then the times where he took them back to the playoffs.
Well, let's get out of here and we will see you tomorrow. Go Hawks.